said Reese. "It's not been here since he took it on Friday morning." Friday morning? It's been gone that long? This was strange. Where could he have taken it? As far as I knew, it hadn't been used since a prom do last Tuesday, and Steve certainly hadn't said anything to me. "That's odd," I said. "Are you sure it's not there?" Reese laughed, his big laugh. "Not unless it's sneaked off and hidden behind a haystack. No, I promise you, Joe, it isn't here." By the time I'd dressed and driven up to the farm to get the rolls, I was mystified. What was going on? I'd tried Steve on both his mobile and his house phone and failed to get him on either. What had he been doing taking the limo out on Friday morning? We definitely had had no bookings for Friday. I'd double-checked. I was actively turning away work at the moment. With only a month left in college, where I was training very proudly for my certificate in floristry, I was taking only a few new bookings till the autumn, when I was going to put the cars and the business up for sale and get on, finally, with the life I wanted to lead. But that was then, and this was now, and my limo and my driver had both vanished. Reese was out in the yard, giving the concrete a hose down when I arrived. Tom was following with a broom. Time was getting on, and I still had the ribbons to put on the car. I grabbed the roll of ribbon and the cool box from the back of my ancient Fiesta and locked it. It always felt a bit ridiculous to be stepping out of my battered old tin can and driving away in something so posh. "Still no sign of it, I suppose?" I asked as I made my way across the yard. Reese shook his head. "Nope." "And you've not seen anything of Steve? He's supposed to be working tonight." Reese shook his head. "Not since Friday morning, like I said, and I didn't really see him then. He just waved as he left." "You not heard from him at all?" No, I hadn't. But one thing was for sure. When I did, he would have some explaining to do. The bride wore ivory. A slinky off-the-shoulder number with a tight-boned bodice and a fishtail skirt, all of which made it something of a challenge for her to get in and out of the car. The groom sweltered in a morning coat and wobbly top hat, and looked like he'd rather be at home in front of the telly. If I ever got married a second time, I thought, I would wear something much more comfortable. Something simple and feminine and soft. Having attended my first wedding trussed up like Bo Peep, I was pretty much decided on that. As was usual, I had an hour's wait between the ceremony and the photos, which they were having done on the beach down near Barry. I usually spent the time doing something useful, sometimes reading a book, sometimes writing stuff for college, or making shopping lists, or making plans. Though sometimes, if the wedding was held at a church I didn't know, I spent much of it looking for a ladies' loo, and more often than not, failing to find one. Today, though, I sat in the car and fretted. Where on earth were Steve and the limo? If what Reese had told me was true, this wasn't the first time he'd taken it without asking me. Could he have been involved in an accident? What if he was hurt? What if he was lying in a hospital bed, unable to call because he was unable to speak? Once I'd taken the couple to Barry, I drove back to the farm, mentally crossing my fingers. Perhaps he'd be back now, and all would be well. But there was still no limo at the farm, and no word from Steve when I got home. No response either to the many messages I'd left him. I called him again, even so. If he didn't show soon, I would have to get the rolls out again. We had an anniversary due booked for 7, a job which I'd already booked Steve for, and which I'd now have to do myself. Josh wasn't in, so I phoned him as well. As usual, he was on his skateboard at the skate park. "Yo, Mum," he said. I told him I'd have to do the booking, which didn't bother him much. These things never did. He was much too busy having fun. "But your tea," I explained. "I'll have to get it for you now. I'll have to leave before 6. "I'm not hungry, Mum. "I'll get myself something later." "Even so, I need to know you're home before I go." He sighed loudly. "Mum, I'm 15. "Yes," I sighed too. "I'm well aware of that, Josh. But I can't go off to Cowbridge without knowing you're home safely."